If a couple is faithful to one another till death do them part, they are not guilty of a sin. I said what I said. Come shoot me. Yo, friends and family, don't know it's your boy Darren. Salmon coming at you again with another episode of the worst relationship advice ever. You definitely should not listen to me because it's beer rubbish me a chat. You see me? And today we're gonna be talking on some pretty controversial stuff. Hold on to your seats. What I'm about to say is probably gonna cause your ears to stand on end, but I promise you, I'm going to do my very best to explain myself in such a manner that it makes sense, what I'm saying. But yeah, today we'll be looking at marriage in more detail, just the heart of God regarding marriage and how I feel we really should teach marriage to our, friends and family, to our young people who are coming up. What I've been able to observe over the years, even for myself and for my friends, is that typically we're very excited about marriage, very excited, that we're always looking forward to it because after the wedding ceremony, all our fantasies and all the things that we want to do with our partner, we'll be able to live that out after the wedding ceremony. And so we grow up with this understanding that marriage is the wedding ceremony. And I've come to realize that that's a wrong teaching. I don't think the church intentionally teaches that marriage is the wedding ceremony. But then when you say stuff like, fornication is sex before marriage, or, we don't want to give people husband and wife treatment before marriage or before the ring is on the finger, a certain understanding of what marriage is can come from certain statements like that, and that can be detrimental to our understanding of what marriage is all about, which will in turn be detrimental to the sustenance of our marital relationships. And so I'm here to change the narrative. I'm here to throwing my opinion on certain topics like fornication and adultery, so that we can rewire how we think about marriage and what marriage actually is. So, marriage was God's idea. He created Adam. He realized that Adam was alone. He was like, let's make a person who is compatible with Adam to be, his companion, his helpmate. And so he made Eve for Adam. And there you have the first married couple. And how did they become married? They became married by becoming one flesh, right? That's how they became married. And so ever since, sex has been the marrying act. But as time has progressed, and ever since sin became a thing within the human experience, we've had to come up with various rules and laws and ideas that now helps to inform how we go about our sexual activity. And so that is why we now have this understanding of what adultery is and what fornication is. Now, I don't know about you, but growing up, I was taught that adultery is to have sex with another person who is not your husband and wife once you're married. And then fornication is sex before you're married, aka sex before your wedding ceremony. That is understood to be fornication. Now, you've had people who have asked the question, but what is wrong with two people who are committed and faithful to each other having sexual intercourse even though they have not had their wedding ceremony as yet? Is that really immoral? And many different people have different perspectives and different understandings of, that particular question. When it comes on to my understanding of what fornication is, I've actually read the Bible for myself and I've developed my own understanding using context clues of how the word fornication is used in the Bible. And based on what I have read, my understanding is that fornication is actually unfaithfulness.
What? Bro, what are you talking about, man?
So yes, I know we've been taught that fornication is sex before marriage, but really and truly it is unfaithfulness. Now, let's say you have a couple who have committed to not have sex until they're married. If they have sex before they have their wedding ceremony, that be considered fornication because they were unfaithful to the promise that they made. Where do I get this understanding? Well, for one, it started when I read when I read Matthew 19, right? It started when I read Matthew 19, where Jesus was being confronted by the Pharisees, asking, hey, is it lawful for a husband to divorce his wife for any and any reason? And then Jesus responds, except for fornication or sexual immorality, a man should not divorce his wife. If he divorces his wife, he causes her to become an adulterer, and the man who marries the divorced wife is also an adulterer, right? And so what I understand from what Jesus said there, based on the context clues, is that adultery is to divorce and remarry while your original spouse is still alive and living on the earth, alive. And fornication is unfaithfulness to your partner who you have made a covenantal commitment with, right? And so even in our current dating sphere, you could say that a couple who is in an exclusive dating relationship, if one person cheats on the other, then that could be considered fornication because they were unfaithful. They made an agreement with this person to be exclusive and to be committed to one another, and now they have broken that commitment by being unfaithful, and that is truly immoral. I say this because we have examples in the Bible of people having sexual relations with multiple partners and it not be immoral. We see this in the example of Jacob, who got married to Leah. So he got married to Leah, but when he woke up the following morning and realized that it was not Rachel, he was pissed, he was annoyed, he was shocked. Like, I just worked 7 years to get Rachel as my wife, but I end up with Leah, her older sister. So he goes to Laban.
He's like, yo, Laban, what go on here, so? I'm supposed to marry Rachel.
And Laban responds to him and says,
well, it's tradition for the older sister to marry first. So you had to get Leah as your wife first. If you still want to marry Rachel, you just need to work for another 7 years.
Boy, I can tell you, if I was Jacob, I'd have been pissed. But Jacob loved Rachel so much that he agreed to work the other 7 years, and he got Rachel as his wife as well. We also see another example of Penina and Hannah. They were both married to, don't quote me on this, I'm sure I'm saying this wrong, but they were both married to Zachariah, something like that. I know it's a Z name, I believe so. But yeah, that's another instance where a man with 2 wives. My memory serves me correctly, David had 5 wives. And as for Salmon, he had a whole lot more wives than that. So we do see this come out in the scripture. And I'm not saying that that's something that God had ordained. I actually believe that God's original plan was for it to be one man, one woman, till death do them part. But we do see instances where there were men who had multiple wives, and it was allowed and it was accepted. And I believe the reason for this is because there was no deception. That the wives knew each other and they were in agreement with the man having more than one wife. And so the whole idea of fornication is that you make a commitment to one person, the agreement is to be exclusive and committed, but then you break that commitment behind their backs. You do it in a deceitful manner. That is hurtful. That damages the trust of the relationship. That jeopardizes the safety of the other person. And so that deceit in and of itself is what fornication is all about. We see where God refers to the Israelites as fornicators because of their idolatry, because God has a covenantal relationship with the Israelites, but then they choose to spit in his face by worshiping idols. And so God refers to them as fornicators for this very reason. And so I want for us to possibly, rethink how we think about fornication, what it really is. Because honestly, based on what I have read, I could be wrong though, but based on what I have read and I have comprehended of what I have read, is that fornication is unfaithfulness. It is deceit. And so from that perspective, we now need to rethink how we think about adultery and fornication, because how we think about it now is granting permission somewhat to us to think more lightly about marriage. And if we think too lightly about marriage, it will translate into more divorce, more separation, more heartache and pain. We have to put a proper value on marriage and a proper value on people, right? So a marriage doesn't really begin at the wedding ceremony. I know that's what we're taught, but the wedding ceremony is really a celebration of the marriage that has already begun. Even if the couple has not had sex as yet, so they may have not had sex as yet, however, they have made a commitment to one another, and they're now having their wedding ceremony to solidify and to celebrate this commitment and to just communicate to the community that this commitment is a real thing. You know what I'm saying? One thing that was very much evident even in the Bible days when there was no ceremony, it was just the two coming together as one flesh, is that there was accountability. The parents of those who were getting married were very much aware that they were getting married and were very much involved in the two coming together, right? And so I don't want to negate the fact that when it comes on to a sexual relationship being the beginning of a marital union, that can be done outside of accountability. That a couple can just, do them thing in private and that be considered a marriage, right? Because the involvement of witnesses, the involvement of the community is actually necessary for the safety of the couple and for the safety of the community at large. However, I will make this controversial statement that the couple that is faithful to one another is not guilty of a sin. I know that was kind of big, but if a couple is faithful to one another till death do them part, they are not guilty of a sin. I said what I said. Come shoot me. Now, we have to, I say this from the perspective that our human relationships are highly valuable. And I think a big part of the issue that we're facing in our current society is that we devalue the boyfriend-girlfriend relationship and we hypervalue the marital relationship. Now, while hypervaluing the marital relationship is appropriate, we do understand that there are various circumstances that will affect a couple moving from their boyfriend-girlfriend stage to their husband and wife stage. And really, this is just circumstantial. It's not necessarily that the people within the boyfriend-girlfriend relationship have a wrong heart posture. I guess most of the time they do have a wrong heart posture because they were taught wrong about how to cultivate a commitment and cultivate a long-standing relationship. But if we can revamp how we teach marriage, and we can place the focus more on the relationship than it is on the ceremony and on the ring and on the dress and on the documentation, if we can place that focus more on the relationship, I believe that can have a net positive effect on our young people matriculating into marriage. And not only doing so, but being able to stand the test of time. Because it is very heartbreaking, it is very disheartening to see people enter into marriage and then fail. I mean, for me, trust me, I do feel guilt and I feel sadness every now and then that my marriage did not work out. But it's all because we got started off on the wrong foot, there was wrong motives, and we were unequally yoked. A lot of what I'm saying now, a lot of knowledge that I have now, I did not have back then. They know that, what they say, hindsight is 20/20. But I come to you now with this knowledge and understanding, with the hope that I can communicate to you in such a way that you grasp what I'm saying, right? Because if we don't switch the focus from ceremony to relationship, we're just going to have more and more of the same issue of people being hyper excited and super happy to be getting married and having their wedding ceremony, but not truly getting the gravity of what a marriage is, and what it means, and what it looks like to love a person unconditionally, in sickness and in health, for better and for worse, for richer and for poorer, until death do us part. Yeah, it's heavy. It's heavy. But I'm here to encourage and support as much of you as possible, as I am on the same journey, and I want my next marriage to be just awesome for me, and I'm hoping the same for all of you as well. So yeah, there's definitely more to come on the next episode of the worst relationship advice ever, as we dive deeper into what I believe God is trying to say to us about his heart regarding marriage. Thank you so much for joining me. Blessings to you and your family. Stay safe and see you next time.